Kia ora, I'm Darrell Haworth, Senior Ranger for the Biodiversity team here in Greymouth on the west coast of the South Island. Another one of my roles is the National Coordinator for Operations for the Wasp Wipeout program. Wasp Wipeout is a program that's driven by Stuff Media and its aim is to reduce the impacts on common and German wasps through many recreational areas, as well as reduce the impacts on our native biodiversity where they're becoming a bit of a problem. So the program's been running since 2016 and it relies heavily on key partners to provide sponsorship for the program in order for it to keep ticking. So we're getting rid of or controlling wasps for a couple of reasons. The first one is for the recreational areas. So we're trying to improve our visitor experiences there as well as protect them from wasps. We've already had incidences here on the west coast where children have been hospitalised after severe wasp attacks. So we're trying to reduce that. The other one is from our biodiversity point of view, wasps are competing with our native birds for insects and they're also impacting them by raiding the nest directly. One of the key things of this program is quite a heavy reliance on external partners to provide funding for this. And we're proud to say that BASF is one of those key partners in this program, providing some funding for this operation to carry on. Over the last 12 months, the program's had a couple of issues which I'll get to. The first off it was the weather. So the season didn't really pan out as we expected it might. A lot of rain and poor temperatures meant that the wasps didn't really reach the levels that we expected them to. So a lot of areas didn't receive any treatment, and those that did, it was quite late in the piece before we actually got wasps in there. Another issue, of course, everybody knows, was the global pandemic COVID-19. So the government's response to that ended in lockdown right at the time when we were about to launch into doing some of those late nests. And it also impacted where we were just going to lay infrastructure for this season's work coming up. So looking forward over the next 12 months, we're already starting in the planning process now, talking to some of our key stakeholders in the program, such as Conservation Volunteers New Zealand, and we're looking at carrying on through the areas we're currently working in, expanding the reach in those areas and bringing more areas on board. We're also looking at where in New Zealand we can expand the program into. So where we go to next, we put out invitations through the department and through regional councils to see if they're interested in engaging in the program, and then we'll go from there, and that will determine where in New Zealand we step to next. Over the last few years, the tools that we have available to control wasps have increased dramatically. Vespex and the introduction of Vespex has changed it where we no longer have to look for and find the nest in particular. Vespex allows us to lay the toxin, and that means that the wasps take that back to the nest rather than us taking straight to the nest. It makes the job a lot easier and allows us the ability to control a far wider area. So I mentioned the program has a heavy reliance on external partners for funding, but there's also quite a heavy reliance on public input into the program in order for it to succeed. That comes from both them identifying and letting us know where wasps are, but it's also about them being part of the program. Through Conservation Volunteers New Zealand and a lot of external groups, recreational users, that sort of thing, they can volunteer, and they do volunteer, to do the work itself on the ground, which means that there's no reliance on either Department of Conservation or pest controllers to be solely responsible for the work that's going on. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank BASF again for their continued funding of the program, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
BASF. We create chemistry.